this show is well aware of my admiration and respect for Senator Bernie Sanders, and what's not to like? He's tireless, he's conscientious, he's dedicated, and let's face it, he's hot. Please welcome my hero, Senator Bernie Sanders. Hey, Bernie. So let's jump in.
Joy, flattery will get you everywhere. You know.
So let's jump in with Russia, because there seems to be a lot of interaction between Trump and the Russians, from his son to his former campaign manager Manafort to even Trump himself. And the list goes on. Every day something else comes out. Now, do you see any smoking gun here at all?
Well, I think what we have is some very strong evidence about the possibility of collusion. But, Joy, what is important is that every American, whether they're conservative or progressive, you like Trump, you don't like Trump, that they believe that this process is objective and it is fair, that it is methodical. Right now, you got the Senate Intelligence Committee, you got the House Intelligence Committee going forward in a bipartisan way. You have Bob Mueller, former FBI director, as special counsel looking at this issue. The charges are very serious. Let the process continue, and we'll reach judgment after all of the evidence is accumulated.
Okay.
Senator, Trump has said that most people would have taken this meeting that his son took, and we all know that politics can be dirty. Some out there are saying the DNC worked very hard to have you not be the candidate representing Democrats last time around. What do you say to people that say this is just politics as usual, this is how it works?
No, I really don't agree. Look, politics is ugly. There is a level of effort to try to destroy candidates personally, et cetera, et cetera. But presidential candidates do not have email chains with foreign governments who are talking about how they can elect you and have dirt on your opponent. That is a clear violation of campaign finance law. So it is not true that this is politics as usual. This is very, very unusual, and that is why these investigations are taking place.
Okay.
All right, so here's my question. Healthcare, it seems, you know, Obamacare is here to stay. Someone finally figured this out. Is it now time for everybody to shut up, sit down, and figure out what works and what doesn't work?
The answer, Whoopi, is yes. And let me just say this.
All right.
I want to personally thank millions of Americans who stood up and fought back and said that, no, we're not going to throw 22 million people in this country off of health insurance, cut Medicaid by $800 billion, defund Planned Parenthood, make it almost impossible for people with pre-existing conditions to get affordable health care. And the American people say, we're not going to do that and give tax breaks to billionaires and large corporations. It appears that we have won that struggle right now.
But is it? Yeah.
But let me say this.
Okay.
We have got to ask ourselves why we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a right, not a privilege. That's the next step.
Right.
That's where we've got to go.
But I wanna make sure I understand. So is it now time for you all to sit down on both sides of the aisle and say, let's get rid of what doesn't work, let's keep what does work, and do that in the name of the people as opposed to in the name of the parties? Is it now time for y'all to do this together?
Well, Whoopi, I think you're exactly right. Nobody thinks that the Affordable Care Act is perfect. Deductibles are too high, co-payments are too high, premiums are too high, prescription drug costs are outrageous in this country. They have got to be lowered. And our job, whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, is to stand together for the American people and tackle those problems.
Okay, I want to talk about the rhetoric then, Senator, because if you're going to sit down with people on both sides of the aisle, some Democrats have branded Republicans the party of death, for example, calling the tax cuts in the Senate health care bill blood money. You yourself have said Republicans are potentially killing Americans. Is that rhetoric irresponsible, and does it provide an impasse to compromise? If you're going to sit down with those very people that you've now said want to kill people...
No, I never said, that's not, you're using rhetoric that I didn't use.
Oh, am
okay?
I? These
what
are
I
quotes.
Said,
Party of death is a quote.
This is what I said. What I said, and it's not me. This is a dozen or more studies that show that if you throw 22 million people off the insurance they have, these are people who have cancer. These are people who have heart disease, diabetes, other life-threatening illnesses. What study after study shows is that thousands of those people will die. That's what Harvard says. That's what study after study shows. It's not me. I'm just telling you what major studies are showing.
In fairness, if you have Republicans that are proposing alternatives, Republicans who also come from a good place and believe the free market is the solution to those things, who don't want people to die, who don't want people to suffer, if you don't acknowledge that those people exist as well on both sides of the aisle, how can you get to the table and compromise?
I have said publicly, nobody here in the Congress wants anybody to die. I understand that. But that is the result of throwing 22 million people off of health insurance. Right. So let us sit down, Republican, Democrat, Independent, and figure out how we go forward, how we improve the Affordable Care Act. I am absolutely open to doing that.
Senator, your wife, Jane, is currently under investigation for bank fraud for a loan she took out while president of Burlington College in Vermont. Jane has been interviewed, and she said, listen, this is sexist. These are people trying to get at my husband through me. Tell us what is really going on.
All right, well, let me tell you what's going on. I'm glad you asked that question. When my wife became president of this very small college in Burlington, Vermont, it had serious financial problems, serious academic problems. 7 years later, that college was in better shape financially and academically than it had ever been. 5 years after she left the school, 5 years, the vice chairman of the Republican Party in the state of Vermont and Donald Trump's campaign director initiated an investigation against my wife as president. It wasn't the bank that she did business with. It wasn't the entity that she bought the property. It was the vice chair of the Republican Party. My wife is one of the most honest people I know. She worked extraordinarily hard at that college and did a great job. We will see where the process goes.
Thank you.
But, Joy,
There's another point.
Let me just add this.
Yeah.
It is a really sad state of affairs in American politics where it is not enough to try to destroy public officials or candidates. You got to go after family members as well. That really stinks.
Senator, let's fast forward to 2020. Recently, you said you wouldn't rule out another presidential run, and a poll out today says you could defeat Trump 52% to 39%.
Wow.
Do you have any thoughts about potentially maybe reconsidering?
I like it.
Your publicist says yes.
Right now, I have, in the last month, I have been to Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, and Iowa in opposition to this disastrous health care plan. My focus right now is to defeat the Republican proposal and to figure out how we can move to health care for every man, woman, and child in this country and lower the cost of prescription drugs. A presidential election is a long way away. I think the American people are sick and tired of never-ending elections. They would like elected officials to start working here in Washington for their interest, and that's what I'm doing right now.
Well, I have to say, I would love it. I would love it. Let's forget Russia. Let's forget health care and all that. And let's get to the real reason you're here today, Bernie. I want you to meet my new dog, and I named him Bernie after you.
Senator Sanders, is it because of they look alike? Is it because...
What's the similarity?
Why Bernie?
Besides the genius of the dog? Well, I'll tell you, Bernie, this dog believes in single payer for dogs.
That's right.
He told the veterinarian, that's it with this insurance baloney. Just take care of me and spay me yesterday. So that's the reason. Are you happy with the name, Bernie? What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Looks like a very smart dog to me.
Our thanks to Bernie Sanders, Senator Bernie Sanders, and we'll be right back.